Welcome to another short video with myself. So I'm Craig Lashford, the course director for physical geography, and I'm joined with one of our alumni from, I think, 2019. I think that's right, James, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Time's gone a bit quick. So yeah, with James, I'll let you introduce yourself. You can do a far better job than me.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm James Boddey. I am a graduate flood risk consultant at ACOM, and like Craig said, 2019 Coventry graduate for BSc Geography.
So why, I suppose, first things first, why did you choose, going back to, because I know you did a placement, which we'll talk about a bit, so going back to a fair few years ago now, why did you choose Coventry?
Yeah, so it goes all the way back to sixth form, really. Back when we were looking at open days and exploring options at all sorts of different universities. So of course I went to Coventry on an open day a couple of times, and it was a lot of the different modules that we could undertake. There was a lot of variety. There was also BSc, BA, and Geography and Natural Hazards, that we had a different variety of courses within geography as a whole. And on top of that, I would have to say it would be the option for a year in industry or going over abroad to study in a different university, which those were the definite kind of options that drove me to apply and then study at Coventry Uni.
So you mentioned that we'll go into that then, the placement year, because I know I was your supervisor actually for your placement, I remember. So what how obviously you identified early on that was something you wanted to do. How did you go about getting it?
So
if you can remember that.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, but so we had an individual in the employment team at Coventry University that helped guide us into the kind of different areas we could go to, and then there was a regular posting of different placement opportunities. So I think I applied for 3. One of them being the one that I took, which was as a flood risk consultancy role for RPS, the water side of that. So there was a lot of engagement with the employment team. They helped us write our CVs and go through interview techniques, and a lot of the kind of questions and processes that we undertook in that really helped in the interview side of the placement industry, because it was treated like applying for a job at the end of uni. So you go through the whole process of maybe some online tests, but a lot of it being focused around the interview and how well you might fit into their company. So yeah, we had a lot of engagement, a lot of support from the employment team.
So what did you do? What was your placement?
So it was as a flood risk consultant, focusing around wastewater modelling and wastewater networks for Welsh Water specifically, which then branched out for some work for Severn Trent as well, over a few months doing some water framework directive work. So there was a lot of GIS and modelling, so building river networks and wastewater networks virtually, and kind of simulating how flood risk could impact them and whether they had the capacity and the operational mechanisms in place to manage certain flows and the impact of climate change and new developments.
So I suppose what did you learn in terms of our degrees, in terms of our modules before that really helped you? Because obviously that's from the wastewater side, some very kind of in-depth stuff. I know from the modelling side as well, quite in-depth stuff. So what did you learn in some of the modules beforehand that really helped?
So a few of them that did really help. So there was the GIS module, which helped gain a wider understanding of how GIS works and the different techniques, and even getting a bit of experience with using the software as well to kind of get that extra step ahead, so that you could kind of hit the ground running with the work you're on. And I think a big thing is that the kind of modules that we undertook gave us the kind of background knowledge that you might not always think that you need in a job, but then you've got a certain project that you're working on and you think, oh, actually sustainable drainage systems, that did a module on that, and it kind of surprisingly comes into the back of your mind as Oh no, I remember actually. This is a certain process to undertake, and the different aspects and the different techniques we can try in terms of drainage and how to manage flood risk, different types of flood risk. So, as a flood risk consultant, that kind of information really helped enforce our thought processes and kind of the direction we would go in terms of mitigating flood risk.
I mean, in terms of, I suppose this is me talking more broadly at Coventry. We've got quite a history of water research as well. So obviously there's myself and then my colleague Frank, but historically we've had people really involved in the water side of things. So I'm thinking the module that we're not, as you know, James, we're not great in physical geography of naming our modules. But if you remember that you did rivers and coasts as well. I'm thinking particularly really have embedded that with myself and Frank actually. I think so. That's kind of before the placement. How did that placement set you up then for kind of final year, and more importantly, I suppose, after kind of you completed your degree?
Yeah, so the year in industry helped get that kind of vital workplace experience that a lot of companies are looking for. You'll often see that certain postings for different jobs require potentially some experience, or at least the kind of understanding of the work involved and the work you would undertake as that role in the company. So it kind of gave you that experience and got you used to working after uni. So not going to lectures or having a couple like 4 hours in a day. Like, you know, you'd have your full 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday, which was kind of my working style. And yeah, it kind of got you used to the idea of eventually finishing uni and going into work and getting used to doing that kind of thing. And so it kind of gave you the technical understanding that you'd need, and as well it really helped with networking. So you would meet people from different areas in the company. You'll get opportunities to try different things, and everyone is willing to, if you're able to make a good impression, and anyone that you work with is a potential contact for post-university work and even potential reference. So if you've worked on a particular project with someone, they can help refer you to a company, or even if you want to apply for that company after university, they can kind of help guide you and have that kind of external mentorship as well as the university mentorship. So it really helped me get a job after university, because one of the people I worked with put me in contact with someone from a different consultancy, ACOM, which allowed me to get some work experience there and later apply for a job and kind of get some mentorship and applying that really helped guide me into the graduate flood risk consultancy role.
So that's what you've been doing for the last 18 months then. So tell me a bit more about that then. What have you been doing since you left Coventry?
Yeah, so after graduating at Coventry, we kind of went more or less straight into the role of a graduate flood risk consultant, ACOM. And as part of that, a lot of the work we do is GIS related. We do a lot of river building and testing flood risk with rainfall and climate change to show the impact that it would have of certain proposals, such as new buildings, new road schemes, because there is a big within the last 5 years or so, there's been a lot of focus around flood risk and climate change impacts, and it kind of we test that for clients and councils and the Environment Agency to really kind of highlight, if a new building or road scheme was to go in place, the impact that would have on the wider area, on certain river crossings or smaller water courses in the area, to kind of ensure that there's no worsening in flood risk as a result of something which is really it's kind of hammered across by the Environment Agency and the people who create the guidelines of, you know, no worsening or potential betterment and management in the way of sustainable drainage over more old school kind of hard techniques, such as just storage or it helps. We kind of test that, and we explore different avenues and kind of cost the impact of this, both costing potential flood risk impacts and mitigating that. And then we produce reporting, flood risk assessments, technical notes, meetings with clients to go over the impacts, and to provide our recommendation on the route that they should take, if they should take that route.
It was really interesting you mentioned the technical notes and the writing as well, because there's the obvious, as you're talking, you can clearly see all of the direct links to geography, GIS, the understanding of hydrological processes. But you've also mentioned some of those kind of really core skills that being a geographer as well, the actual being able to write a document correctly, that is so important as a geographer, that those kind of additional skills as well, that I think that a geography degree gives you. I think that's really important. It's not just, yes, the flooding, the hydrology is directly really linked to the flooding, the flood engineering, and that side of things. But actually, those core skills lead you to lots of different careers. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Yeah. To understand, I think a quite an important aspect of going into working life, especially in the water sector, is understanding specific writing techniques, or a lot of the background processes, such as the water cycle, or like the module you mentioned previously, rivers and coasts, because not all the work we do is related to inland rivers. We do tidal infrastructure and tidal flooding, which is a whole different ballpark, and to understand those processes. But a big important thing is technical writing, to understand not only how to present findings and processes, but how to write them in a way that is would be easier to understand for people who don't specifically have a thorough understanding of the industry and modeling and the different techniques we take.
Well, I think we could, as you know, James, you and I could talk about this for hours on end. But I think it's fair to say that we have, and we spoke about this before we started recording, we have a raft of alumni that go into the water sector, and it's something I particularly think is very strong at Coventry. So I really do appreciate you taking your time today, just to have a bit of a chat and to put this video together. So thank you very much, James. I really appreciate it. Is there anything more you wanted to add?
Okay. The only thing really is just to state that, different water industries as well as AECOM are always looking for graduates from geographical backgrounds. So just always keep your eye out and take any opportunity you can, really. Work experience, and I mean, year in industry, I definitely say is a good thing to think about, because it can really help get your foot in the door for post university life.
Brilliant. And we've actually got a few videos as well that I've put together with some students that have just come back from placement as well. So hopefully they'll be available for people to watch as well. So thank you very much, James.
It's okay.